To order, for those who are able, if you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. Remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you and welcome, everybody. The first item on the agenda is a presentation of the firefighter badge for firefighter Ryan Williams. Chief?
We have a special night tonight, a special day in the Ypsilanti Township Fire Department. I have a probationary firefighter who has gone through 1 year of Ypsilanti Township Fire Department training, and he successfully passed all of our requirements for the township, for being employed in the township of the fire department. Successful in our SOGs, our day-to-day operations, apparatus driving, EMS calls, structural firefighting, that sort of stuff. Come through with stellar fine marks, both from his officers and my office as well since September. So I would like to present him with his badge tonight and welcome him officially on board as a Ypsilanti Township firefighter.
Awesome.
Sir,
We take pictures?
here's your badge. Welcome aboard. Well done.
You want to say?
So he declines any statements. He says he's all good.
Ryan, okay.
All good.
Well, welcome aboard, and we are so happy to have you here. I know you're a township resident, I believe. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yes. So I know it was a passion of yours to be a firefighter for many years, and I know the men and women of the department are excited to have you here. So is Maria. And thank you, Chief, for doing this and recognizing Ryan as well as his family that's here. I know they're also very proud of the firefighter. And Ryan, we welcome you. Would you like some photos?
Sure.
Okay.
If the family wants to come up and take them, I saw cameras going up.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to stand by the podium? Yeah. Does your family come up?
If
Yeah.
they want to come up, you can come up here in front of the dais, and maybe some of the officers.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you come up here? Yeah, absolutely. You guys want to come up here?
Space back out.
Are we letting his family go, or are we all going? Just do it? Yeah.
If they're on break.
And then I'll put this, yeah, we'll do you guys in case you gotta go, and then we'll do the officials, and we'll be good.
Guy? Family, do you want to go up there?
I want to go with
And
him.
we'll take some with y'all.
I was gonna say, everyone wants to take a couple pictures.
Cameras, yeah. Peppa first, Peppa first, yes. Smile. You guys want to go up?
You want to stay in there? Okay. No, Jack.
Hey, Ryan. Ryan, hold your bag up. There you go.
All right. Smile, everybody. All right. Where did I get this from? Oh, there you go. I was wondering.
Yeah. Do a quick one with the township officials? Yeah.
Look over here.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have minutes of the January 16th, 2024 regular meeting and statements and checks.
So move.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. I do have a few corrections on the minutes. I don't know if you want to do them now.
You want me to just take?
Yeah, I could give them to Clerk Rowe. Trustee Swanson?
Do you guys, like, I think it would be better if it's okay for you to just say what page and what your changes for the record, and then if I could have the copy just for ease.
Treasurer Swanson? On page 1, where it says, under Treasurer's Report, Clerk Gerald Rowe reviewed the edits she had received for the minutes, and they were from me, Supervisor Stumbo. On page 2, that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, when you read it, it looked like it was just me that provided feedback, but I know other people did. It's in
Paragraph.
the second paragraph, yep, on that. And on page 3, that Jason Ikeangelo is also going to the private sector. I just didn't know if, I wanted people to know that he was going there. And on the increase for the wages of the workers, I just wanted to include what it went from, and that we were, your sheet indicated we were going from $17 to $22 for the chair, $14 to $20 for co-chair, and $13 to $18. It also, I had asked about the budget. We need to make sure that the increase in wages for the election inspectors are in line with the budget. You thought they were, but that wasn't, I just want to make sure that they are, and that was in part of the minutes. It also refers to Clerk Lovejoy Rowe and instead of Gerald Rowe. In that same section there. And then on the discussion on page 6, when we talked about the county department, if we could look at paragraph 5, and it talked a lot about Supervisor Stumbo stated there are a lot of things being said about that the county department would not open up their books. So at the meeting, people were discussing that, you know, we could follow FOIA in order to do that, and I am just shocked. That's the context. So I wrote some notes here for you, and I can give that to you. And the HVA is Huron Valley Ambulance on page 7. I had talked about how they're running 30 to 45 minutes late, and our firefighters are actually doing the ambulance work, but the ambulance is collecting the fees. So we wanted to meet with Huron Valley Ambulance in order to clear that up. And that was it.
Yep, so, page 6, paragraph 1, the last sentence, there's and then there needs to be an if inserted there, if the costs are appropriate. And page 4, Newman, last sentence, Ben vague and needs a did inserted there, did not include.
The last sentence, Deb.
Yeah, the very
Okay.
last sentence. So it starts out with Ben vague.
Mm-hmm.
I think Newman is quoted with that. And then it needs a did inserted, did not include. I wasn't sure. I thought there was more than one person who spoke during public comment, but I could be inaccurate in that part. Sorry, and I could be inaccurate. I thought that there was more than one person that spoke, said one person, so we'd have to double check that. I could be wrong about that. Can check my notes. And then in the board member updates.
Cannot hear you.
In the board member updates, there's a place that's attributed to you, the clerk, and I think we either have to have, like, it's Civic Center needs to be capitalized or no caps. So there's places where there's caps and there's not caps. Trustee Peterson is in that. She's also in board member updates. She listed the board members, so we should probably include the names. I think she said that Stumbo, Eldridge, Newman, and Hunter attended the event, the Martin Luther King event. And then I wasn't sure about where we have at the end. So there were things that were attached, like the resolution to the master plan. I would suggest that we hyperlink somewhere in there that you can go to the plan, but that might not be something that we do. All these in there, the dam safety resolutions in there, the mutual aid agreements in there, and there's a budget amendment in there. But then we discussed the police services, so I didn't know if that contract needs to be in there with it. So it just kind of ends with, I think, the budget amendment. And then, like Supervisor Stumbo said, I think we need to increase, you shared the page with the wages for the election workers, so I think that needs to be included in there, because it wasn't, I don't think that was in the other packet, so that people could see, because it shows the difference, like the comparisons that were done for increasing the pay.
Any other edits? Hearing none, we have a motion and support to approve the minutes of January 16th with the additions or edits, statements and checks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is the attorney's report. Is there any general legal update, Mr. Winters?
Madam Chairperson, I continue to send the board numerous letters about ongoing issues. Only a few things I would like to highlight this evening. Just before the presentation to the new firefighter, I had a few moments to talk with former Supervisor Wes Prater, and it kind of brought back a lot of memories in regards to all the people that have participated in the development of the township over the years. I know Supervisor Ruth Ann Jamnick, as well as Carolyn Joy Rose, clerk and supervisor, all played a major part in seeing the acquisition of what we call the Seaver Farm properties. And on the Seaver Farm properties, we've been waiting for development to come. And during that time period, the township has been patient and have tried to make sure that we stay true to the township's vision and the master's plan and the zoning ordinances. So that being said, this past weekend, this past Friday and yesterday, the township did finalize the transaction with Aldi Incorporated to construct a new Aldi grocery store at the corner of Whitaker Road, here in Whitaker Road, sometimes called Huron Road, and Brinker Way. That's the first entry into that parcel. Township previously sold acres to Boesel Corporation, which is now Underground Printing, but the finalization of this transaction, I think right now, is going to bring additional interest into the Seaver Farm. In fact, we've been talking with other potential developers who wish to also develop and come into the township. So in any event, that deal has been finalized. The Township Treasurer's Office and Accounting did receive the monies via the wire transfer. And so that's great news, and I think Aldi's intending to break ground this spring, and I think they want to be open sometime this summer. So that's all very positive news. On a different note, because of the ongoing number of infrastructure projects the township has, and sometimes the difficulty of having bidders who bid on some of our projects, I did want to bring the board up to date in regards to the one bidder who was awarded the contract to actually renovate the bathrooms at the Green Oaks Golf Course. You may recall it was Lynch Construction. They were awarded the contract for nearly $200,000 back in December of this year, and after the contract was presented to Lynch Construction, they refused to sign the contract, saying that they did not realize, although it was in the bid specifications, that they had to pay their employees the prevailing wage and fringe benefits. And the township was not going to take that out of the contract. It's been a township ordinance since 1974. And the township has always taken a strong position that if you work and live in this township and pay taxes, that when it comes to opportunities for vendors or other contractors to perform work on township-owned properties, that those employees be paid a prevailing wage. So upon their refusal to sign the contract, for the first time probably that I know of, I actually had to submit a claim on their, quote, bid bond. A bid bond is posted, it's about 4 or 5% of the estimated project to ensure that if this actually ever happens, the township has some recourse, because now that they have refused to sign the contract, once again, I think Director Hines and maybe Stantec has had to go out for additional work, additional bids, to go back and get those bids back in proper form. So their bid bond was nearly $10,000, $9,900, I believe. And so the surety company agreed with the township's position that there was no justifiable reason for them to withdraw their, to refuse to sign the contract. And so they did remit the check to the township again, to Treasurer Eldridge, that sum of $9,900, I believe. Again, just to show right now that it's a two-way street. If you bid on a project and you're awarded the project, then we expect you to sign, and there's no reason in the world as to why you would not pay your employees the prevailing wage and fringe benefit in this township, given the history of the townships going back to '74. The position has been very well carved out for those five decades. So those are the two items I wanted to highlight this evening, Aldi being a done deal, and also the Lynch Construction Company having to pay the township for defaulting on their contract award.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Any questions or comment? We will need that extra money for the bid for the community center. All our projects have come in exceedingly high in the last couple of years, so hopefully it'll level off. Item number 1 is a resolution 2024-02, which is approving the contract and authorizing notice for the Sugar Brook water main improvements.
I have Resolution 2024-02, approving contract and authorizing notice for the Sugar Brook water main improvements, the Charter Township of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County, State of Michigan. Whereas it is necessary to acquire and construct certain improvements to the water supply system consisting of the acquisition, construction, and installation of improvements in the Sugarbrook neighborhood in the township, including installation of new water mains and connectors, together with all necessary appurtenances and attachments thereto and improvements. And whereas a contract has been prepared between the township and the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, whereby the authority will issue its bonds on behalf of the township to provide for the financing of the township share of the costs of the acquisition, construction, and installation of all the improvements. And whereas the governing body has carefully reviewed the contract and it finds that it provides the best means for accomplishing the acquisition and construction of the improvements and for providing the needed services. Now therefore be resolved that 1, the approval of the contract effectiveness. The contract is hereby approved and supervisor and the township clerk of the township are hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver the contract for and on behalf of the township. Provided, however, that the contract shall not become effective until the expiration of 45 days after the publication of the attached notice is a display advertisement, at least a quarter page in size in the Washtenaw Legal News, a newspaper of general circulation within the township, which manner of publication is deemed by the governing body to be the most effective manner of informing the taxpayers and electors of the township of the details of the proposed contract and the rights of referendum thereunder. 2, publication of notice. The clerk is directed to publish the attached notice in the newspaper above designated as soon as possible after the adoption hereof. 3, reimbursement declarations. The township makes the following declarations for the purpose of complying with the reimbursement rules of Treasury Regulation 1.150-2 pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. As of the date hereof, the township reasonably expects to reimburse itself for the expenditures described in B below with the proceeds of debt to be incurred by the authority or the township. B, the expenditures described in this paragraph are for the cost of acquiring and constructing the improvements, which were or will be paid subsequent to 60 days prior to the date hereof. C, the maximum principal amount of debt expected to be issued at the improvements, including issuance costs, shall not exceed $5 million. 4, rescission. All resolution and parts of resolutions in conflict with this resolution are hereby repealed. I would so move the resolution.
Support Swanson to approve the resolution.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Stumbo and fellow trustees. The bond matter before you is in regards to planned water system improvements for the Sugarbrook neighborhood and Ypsilanti Township. The project has been broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 is planned to begin construction sometime probably early spring, midsummer. Will result in various water main replacements, minimal sewer work, probably a little less than 2 miles worth of work. It's been broken into 2 phases, really just to minimize the financial burden. It is being coordinated with the township and the Washtenaw County Road Commission in regards to needed road improvements. So it's alignment of a lot of the activities that's happened in that neighborhood recently with DTE improvements for gas services to get underground infrastructure improved before we make road improvements in that neighborhood. And Tom Colas, YCO's bond counsel, is here to cover the details of the bond.
Thank you, Director Blackburn.
Good afternoon. As indicated in the reading of the resolution, it really authorizes 2 main things. It approves the contract between the township and YCUA. And the purpose of that contract is to provide that YCA will issue bonds for this project for the improvements in the Sugarbrook neighborhood of the township. That contract also provides that the structure of the bonds will be payable over 20 years, and the bonds will be sold to the open market. Unlike some of the transactions that we've done recently with YCUA and the township, this project didn't qualify for financing through the drinking water program through the state. So the other alternative means of actually financing is going out to the market. So that's the expected process for this issue is if the contract's approved and notice gets published, and we get past the 45-day referendum period, the YCUA board, who has already approved the contract at their previous meeting, they would consider a bond resolution once the project has been bid, so we know the actual project costs. And then once we know those costs, we would go out and market the bonds and sell the bonds out to the market. That process would typically take 45 to 60 days after the notice has expired and once the bids come in. So the expectation is to have proceeds sometime in the middle of early to mid-May of this year so that, if the project's ready to go, it can be constructed during the summer. The contracts in form, which a lot of the contracts that the township have with YCUA provides for the repayment of the debt service by the township to YCUA. The intent is to use the township revenues that are collected by YCUA for system improvements to pay that debt service. The township also does pledge its full faith and credit to support that should those revenues be insufficient, but there's no expectation that those revenues would be insufficient at this time to cover debt service. And so there's no other expected township revenues that would be currently expected to be utilized to pay debt service on the bonds. Happy to answer any questions on the resolution or the contract itself.
Just for a point of information, when's the last time we went out on market?
From the township perspective, probably a good 4 or 5 years. We did a piece with the city a couple years ago. Is it even longer than that?
I don't think we have, because usually the state has state revolving fund or the one.
Yeah, most of the projects that are being financed have qualified in recent years, either through the clean water, which is on the sewer side, or the drinking water program for the state. Now, that's the most beneficial because they provide a below market interest rate. So, for example, the current interest rate environment for this current state SRF pool is about 2%. The expectation of going out to the market and selling bonds, again, that might change from time to time, but the estimates were run at about a 4% rate. So you're talking almost twice the interest cost by going out to the market versus having the project qualify through the drinking water program. So it is a difference in cost, of course, from an interest cost perspective, but the state has their program as to how they rate particular projects, and
Well, we used to qualify, and they've changed
the rating requirements this past year.
And so now Ypsilanti Township does not qualify, and we've met with our lobbyists. I know Director Blackburn has also sent letters to our state senator, our state representative. I have met with SEMCOG to see how Ypsilanti Township, who has done improvements for 25 years, or probably longer than that, through the state of Michigan and the guaranteed finance rate. So now we could be paying 2 points higher. And everyone knows, it's $5 million. That's huge. When you're trying to buy a house, 1 point is huge. So we're going to keep trying to change back. I don't know why they changed it. No one has clarity on that yet, but we're trying to get it so that Ypsilanti Township can qualify for the low-interest loans again. So I'm very disappointed. That's all I can say, and I'm trying to be professional.
So if I may, just for clarification, we are going to we've already submitted our application for phase 2 of the project through the drinking water program, and we've restructured the project plan that we have, and we hope it scores higher, but there is, as we've discussed on a number of occasions, due to the overburden status, the new scoring criteria through the program, it does make it difficult for the township to qualify. And unless something dramatically changes with the number of applicants, which is not expected, we could see the same situation again this year.
And we have many other projects. We've been trying for 2 or 3 years. West Willow neighborhood is coming up. Sugarbrook, Oaklawn, Hawthorne was on the list, but 2 points and what it does is it negatively affects the ratepayer, because that makes housing unaffordable, which everyone talks about, but yet they do something like this, and it has opposite effect. It's just disturbing that this has occurred in our community, but we have to proceed with the improvements. We need to get them taken care of, and I know we do, and hopefully it will change through all the advocacy and the meetings we've had. No one knew. The people we've talked to, our lobbyists, had no idea that they had changed it, and neither did State Representative Wilson. I don't know if Senator Irwin did or not, but we will continue to work towards getting that lower interest rate for our residents and our taxpayers and our ratepayers. It's upsetting, but I know it's not our fault. Any other comments or questions on this?
Well, I would just be interested in learning more about why that is, because I don't know what they're looking at. Like, if they look at us from a county perspective, some of the neighborhoods that we're talking about that need this done are neighborhoods that are well-established older neighborhoods. And so depending on where they're looking at us, and I don't know how they're making that decision, so I don't understand. But, you know, if you look at us from a county perspective, if they're looking at the county medium, whatever, Washington County, like, there's going to be a discrepancy there. And if, like, it just makes no sense to me, the neighborhoods that, that need this because they were neighborhoods that were in existence for a long period of time, it just seems like an unreasonable situation. And maybe our community is a little different because we have, like, well-established neighborhoods, and as we grew, we spread. But if you're looking at them, it's just not the same thing that's being compared. And people want the clean water and they want clean drinking water. So this is exactly the type of project that needs to happen here. And then when you overlay the opportunity index, we're talking about neighborhoods that are all in the opportunity index. So it does not make sense. I mean, I could see them maybe in a Newburgh neighborhood seeing that Ypsi Township couldn't, but it doesn't make sense to me that they would look at our older neighborhoods that were well established and, you know, help take care of Michigan. I mean, help build like this area. It just makes no sense to me. So I'd be interested in learning more about why that is, to be a better advocate when I'm talking to people about what this discrepancy is. So however they're rating it, I don't understand how they're making that change, but certainly we should be speaking up because this project is exactly the kind of project they're saying they want to happen. And supposedly there's a lot of money for it to happen, even from the federal government, but we're not getting any of it.
So, Trustee Swanson, I can answer some of those questions. The new scoring criteria only allows us to use the median annual household income for the township, so it doesn't allow us to utilize like census tract data for more specific projects such as the Sugarbrook project. I do not know all the details of why it changed. I know it was a new public act in 2022 that initiated this change with Eagle. I think it was alongside a lot of additional federal dollars that came into the program that supported that change. The first year we were denied access to the program, we primarily worked with Eagle and shared our frustrations at that state level, did some restructuring internally. The second year when we were turned down, and there's many different details of that we've struggled with to get clear communication from Eagle on the scoring criteria. I think this year when we were denied, that's when we started working with the township and trying to reach much further to see what can we do to advocate for some change. We made public comments during their hearings and so forth. So we're hopeful, but I'm not sure if Mr. Colas would know of any other additional details. That's what we've done to date.
Thank you so much for your advocacy and writing the letters. Is that makes a difference, they said. So we'll continue in our lobbyist, GCSI. They also are advocating and trying to figure out why and what would it take to reverse it so that we could qualify again. So we have a motion and support to approve the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 on the agenda
Thank
is
you.
a request to accept the resignation of Hazelette Crosby from the Civil Service Commission, effective immediately.
So move.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to say that I thought Hazelette was such a great member of the Civil Service Commission. Lisa, my deputy, works with the Civil Service Commission a lot, and she always had a lot of great feedback, and we'll miss her.
Thank you, and I feel the same way, and we are advertising for this, and we'll bring it back to the next meeting for appointments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is a request to accept the resignation of Brad Hine from the Zoning Board of Appeals, effective immediately.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Eldridge. Again, we want to thank Brad Hine for his dedication and to the Zoning Board of Appeals. He just couldn't make the meetings any longer, and he put in his resignation, so we appreciate his service as well. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is a request to appoint Fletcher Ryer to the Washtenaw Area Transportation Study, which is Watts Technical Committee, as a staff assigned.
So move.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. Questions or comments? The planning director was in this position, and he has resigned and moved on, and so we would like to appoint Fletcher in his place. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is a request to cancel the February 20th, 2024 Township Board meeting due to early voting in the boardroom and approve statements and checks with formal approval at the next meeting.
So move.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is budget amendment. Number 2, Clerk Rowe.
I have a motion to amend the 2024 budget. I would move to increase the Bike Sidewalk Rec Roads Fund, BSR2 budget, by $138,785 to $3,727,400, and approve the line item changes as outlined, and move to increase the law enforcement fund budget by $30,000 to $9,363,116, and approve the line item changes as outlined. I'd so move the budget amendment.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. One of the budget amendments is for the increase in the amount we bid out projects for a grant from MDNR for Clubview Tennis and Pickleball Court, and they came in higher, so this budget amendment will allow us to continue with the project. Our lobbyists did, after we met with them, said that the state may be looking at giving more dollars to the community because bids are coming in so much higher than anticipated. So we've already sent the information, John Hines has sent to our GCSI to see if we can get more funding from MDNR to help with the cost of this. But until then, we have to proceed. Questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under authorization and bids, we have the request to accept the quote from XL Home Improvement, which is wall side windows for the Community Resource Center renovation in the amount of $35,071, which is budgeted, and authorize the attorney to prepare a contract for the clerk and supervisor to sign.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Hunter. You're welcome. Discussion on this? Mr. Winters has reviewed the quote, and once this is approved, we'll prepare a contract in order to enter into it with the company and get the improvements made at the Community Resource Center, which is in West Willow on Tyler Road, and utilize the funding. I'm not supposed to say ARPA, I know, Giovanna. They're general fund dollars because they went to our general fund, but this is one of the identified projects with the ARPA money. Okay. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a request to award professional services contract for cybersecurity to Cincy in an amount of not to exceed $30,000, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Rowe. Discussion?
Madam Chair, excuse my voice tonight, folks.
I can help you if you need it.
This idea, well, before I start, let me first thank Deputy Supervisor Elizabeth Kuehler and Information Services Manager Travis McDougall. They played a large part in this, gathering the information, putting all of the bids together, helping with the interviews and setting it up. And also to thank the supervisor. It was actually her idea during a discussion several months ago that brought this forward. And she was kind enough to allow us to go ahead and take the lead on it and put everything together. So having said that, we put out an RFP, I want to say back in November. We had 25 responses. which if the board and the public's looked at our last several RFPs that have gone out, we've struggled to get into 5, 6, 7. Here we had 25. We looked through all of those and identified 4 that we wanted to follow up with. We conducted those interviews back in December, and at the completion of those, it was clear, at least to me, and I think to the other 2 members of the working group, that one company stood out in meeting exactly what we were looking for. As you can see in your packet, and the audience can see if they've looked at the handouts in the back, the bids range from, I'm going to say 30,000 up to almost 3 million, 2.9. There was one bid astray at $175 that it just wasn't complete. So in looking at those, doing the interviews, many did not address what we were specifically looking for. And what we were looking for in this was not only some cybersecurity work for our employees to learn how to spot troublesome emails and other things that come across, but really to help the residents in the community by doing in-person meetings throughout the community and online meetings. We've had many residents approach us through the years who have been victims of cybercrime, where they've lost everything they have in the bank because they thought they were following a proper email or directive from any number of different groups that prey on individuals. So again, in looking at all these, it was clear that Cincy, which is a state of Michigan company, really answered everything that we were looking for. So it's the recommendation of the 3 committee members that, contingent on the attorney reviewing the contract with Cincy, that we award them the contract for their cybersecurity not to exceed $30,000. Tonight here are 2 of the founding members, David Bean, who has a long history here in Washtenaw County in administration, and Dave Kelly, who has a long background in law enforcement services. So they're here to answer questions, as are Travis and Elizabeth, should anyone have any.
Questions or comments?
So I'm super excited about
Trustee
this as
Swenson?
well, because we've seen in several neighborhood watch meetings, people who have, well, we hear about concerns, but people who've actually been victims. And there's a lot of predatory behavior when it comes with cyber, so this is exciting. The one thing that I think it said it could be up to 10,000 people. So the one thing I'm wondering is how we make sure, we reach those numbers. And then I wonder if, the county does their equity challenge or whatever, where they have, so it might be something worth looking at too. I'm no way an expert, do I want to say that I'm going to do that work. But I think what it does is that particular model, I don't know if you've seen it before, but they're getting ready to kick off one soon right now, where they do a challenge and they get people to sign up for it. And then there are little things that you do every day for 21 days to learn about stuff. And then what happens is it starts to build a cohort of people, because the next time they do it, then there's another group. And so you just start to build this group of people that kind of have this shared knowledge. So if you haven't seen that, you probably know how you go about this. But I think it just garners a connection between people, and it garners this excitement. There could be some cool name like Ypsi Township is cyber safe or something like that. But anyway, it's easy to find on the Washtenaw County website. They did it with United Way, and it may be just something that could blossom into something that is a model for other communities. So I'm very grateful that we found people who are interested in doing this work for us, because it's it's very, very needed. And there's nothing more crushing than to see somebody who has made that mistake and lose their life savings because they didn't know. So thank you. I'm very excited, but that would be the only recommendation, because if we can get that many people doing it, it's going to spread. People are going to spread the word, and it's just going to create a better, more knowledgeable community for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? I would just like to say that I read the proposal and I was excited. The first time this happened was a neighborhood watch meeting. There was actually 2 residents, and everyone thinks it's seniors. That's not necessarily the truth, because there's a lot of people that click on things, and it can happen to any age group. This training, I know is of great interest to all our residents. We had a meeting here with Congresswoman Dingell, and there was almost 200 people here that was interested in talking about how do you protect yourself from being a victim of cyber crimes. And this is out of the police services budget, and it's because it is a crime. And it is a crime that the sheriff department, if it has to be up to a certain amount, or they won't do anything about it. It's not our sheriff, it's just federally, and it's very hard to track where it came from. And Stan and I have seen The Beekeeper, which is a new movie out, and I liked it because of beekeeping, but it also was about cybersecurity. I encourage everyone to see that. It's a little action-oriented, but I really liked it. And it just, like they're doing movies about it now and how people are being taken advantage of, So it says March, June, and October, there will be open enrollment, and that the township will gather email addresses and names for our provider. Then there's going to be citizen cyber programs, which is up to 10,000 people or 10,000 residents, business owners, I think, as well. And you can have them in person for quarterly. There's a 1-hour in-person training, or you can do it on Zoom as well. So there's different ways to actually get this information out. It also will be a model for other communities, we're hoping. And they will assist with the marketing efforts to promote the program. So that's actually in their proposals as well. So this is exciting, and I'm anxious because we have said in the past, if one person is saved by not having their life savings taken, it's worth the amount of money. And I hope it grows even more and it's replicated. And David Bean worked at Washtenaw County, and he's a county resident, and so we do have some history. He's also the lowest bidder. I want to make sure that we put that out there, and the committee did a great job. This will also help with the township security, and which will help our IT department, Travis, and the employees, and what we learn individually as employees will help us in our personal life as well. So this is exciting, and it's a good way to start the new year. I do think we have to prepare either a contract or as a proposal. I'm not sure. The legal will review it. If there has to be a contract, then we'll do a contract. If not, we can sign the proposal once approved by our attorney. That's all I have. Any other comments?
Yeah, I may have missed it, but how long is the contract for? Is it?
It's a 1-year pilot.
It's a 1-year pilot.
Okay, because I was wondering after the 1 year, what's going to happen, because cybersecurity is always.
Yeah, but we need to measure it, right, and see how many residents participated. I think we know what it'll do at the township perspective, but it's the resident part that's, super exciting. And
Okay.
we do want to measure it.
All right.
If that's okay, we can go more than 1 year, but the proposal's for 1 year.
Oh, yeah, and we can see what happens in
Yeah.
1 year. Yeah,
Yeah.
go from there. All right, thank you.
Great question. Any other comments? Stan, thank you for all your efforts. Mr. Winters?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious because this happened to me yesterday. I was waiting for a tow truck because my car needed to be towed. And so I get a phone call, and I answer the thing, it's the tow truck, and actually had a phone number from Spain. So I know it wasn't the tow truck people coming from Spain, but I'm just kind of curious, is this cybersecurity going to also help with the technology on the phones? Because so many things can go wrong with that if you answer a phone call like I did.
Oh, thank you. There's a lot of things happening on our mobile devices now, and that's one of the things that we work to address for not only the township, but the township residents, what to look for, how to recognize when these things are happening. And we're very in tune through our, what we call a cyber analyst position, with what things are happening kind of recently, right? And we try to tune our training to the things that are happening recently and get that out as quickly as we can to everyone. So there's very specific things that they're trying to do in those text messages when they're trying to text you to get you to respond, right? And that's what we try to educate people what to look for. So.
Is there when in doubt, don't click, but I don't think that's how it goes. It rhymes.
Yeah.
There's some term that people use or a sentence, don't click. Do not click if you don't know,
Yeah, and they're getting so good now at making the things look, very legitimate, right? That it becomes more and more important to know exactly how to look for things, and there's little tricks and things that will show folks to help them do that.
And even on the phone, like if Mr. Winters would have answered, sometimes they'll take your voice and piece it together and use it for other things.
Yeah, if you don't know who it is, don't answer the phone, it's
Yeah.
gotten to that point, especially on your mobile device.
Yeah, yeah.
I did notice that, the phone call I got after I answered the phone, he had a 3-4 number, which was like an international phone call, but it was after I already answered the phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have a motion and support to award the professional service contract for cybersecurity to Sensi. Any other questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is a request to seek sealed bids for the renovation of Fire Station 3 located at 20 South Hewitt.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge, support Swanson, and this will come back to the Township Board, of course, for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is a request to accept the bid from A.R. Brower for the repairs of Ford Lake Park shelters 1 through 4 in the amount of $360,821, which is budgeted, and the West Willow Park shelter in the amount of $18,967, which is budgeted, in a total amount of $379,788.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Eldridge, support Rowe. Mr. Hines.
Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Services Director. Yes, before you is a request to accept a low quote of $379,788 from A.R. Brower for the shelter repairs of Ford Lake Park, all 4 shelters, and the West Willow Park shelter. All of these shelters were under the general fund funded projects that the board approved last year. For the Ford Lake repairs, it was for the shelters, and this would be for the roofs, the decking, and some concrete work for all 4. And for West Willow, it'd be the same, though mostly just prioritized on the roof. West Willow, we will bring forward further requests to go out to bid for work at that park. This is just a small part of the overall project, but for Ford Lake, this would be everything is kind of planned for that park. The bids received 6 bids. A.R. Brower is the lowest bidder, and they do come with high recommendations. I know I'll let Jen, who's joined me here, speak on them further if needed, but I know Stantec's spoken highly of them. They're doing projects in other areas of the county, and consistency-wise for pricing, everything was consistent, and they still were the lowest. Due to the price of the bids that came in for Ford Lake Park, this is contingent on a line item transfer to cover the excess funds, as we will need to bring forward a request for construction engineering for both parts of the park project.
Questions or comments from Mr. Hines?
Yeah, so I read
Trustee
that,
Swanson?
I think it was structure 1. There's some concrete or something, like a fireplace or something that's got to be removed. Is that this one or is that a different one, like the bid? Can you just explain what's going to happen there?
Of course, forgive me for not including that. Part of the request for approval is the first alternate, which is for $33,000, and that is to replace the entire concrete pad at Ford Lake Shelter 1, and part of that work would be the demolition of the fireplace, which would, of course, be part of that cost.
So the fireplace, so I know like some of the shelters have like little grill areas or whatever inside it. So the fireplace is it's the one closest to the water, right?
Yes.
And so when it's demolished, it's just going to look like the other shelters? Is that the plan?
Correct. So it'd be less of an obstruction to the view of the water and remove, I guess, I'd say, the able to use the fireplace, because right now you can't cook in it. It's only more for aesthetics. Since the parks aren't open at night, it really doesn't offer any daytime use. And the biggest concern with it is structurally, it is crumbling, and it's sooner or later going to be a safety issue.
And then the gazebo area that is marked off over by Structure 3, is that like, do we have any plans to do anything there? Or I know it's not in this bid, but it's all marked off with like the yellow tape because it's so close to, like, it's the erosion that's making that less stable. So is there a plan like to do something with that, or is that something that isn't on the agenda for that park?
It's not on this agenda, but it is something that we should look to address.
The only other thing that I have concerns about that really isn't this particular thing, but I think we really have to go through, in looking at the bids that have come in, there are like some typos and some things that are in stuff that we're sending out to people. And I want to say there's like an affidavit that goes with Iran, something to do with Iran. And I don't know if it's our document, because some of those documents are documents with, this one looks like an Ypsilanti Township document, but there are some that are not ours. They're standard from other things. But that one has the word contractor in it, and then there's a place where it says contactor. So I think there's a typo in that one, but I don't know whose it is. But once we hand it out to people and they fill it out, it's notarized. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to go back and have somebody refill out a form. So I just think it's probably just stuff that's been in process. We send them out. I think that may be something that with the fire with Hewitt Road that we're going to be asking somebody to do. So it has something to do with Iran, and it has like funds, and then it has a place where it's got to be notarized, where they're signing off on it. So I think we need to look at everything. Maybe somebody's just got to go through, because there's a lot of documents that go out. And if we're doing that, we just want to make sure it's sure. And then there's another document where it's all in male gender language. So all known, all men by, and then all the language in there. So I think we just got to take a look at that kind of stuff and make sure if that's not our document, we may not have any say about that. But I think at this point, there are a lot of contractors that are not identifying as men. So I think we just want to be aware of that and take a look at it.
What's the completion date? August 31st?
Thank you.
And one thing just to add is the completion date for the project. The goal is August 30th of this year.
Oh, okay. That's very good. And again, this was on the list of ARPA projects that we're now general fund. We're not supposed to use that word. But this is on that list, and we have to be under contract for all ARPA projects by the end of '24, and they have to be completed by '26. So this is right on time for completing that. That's good to know it'll be done this year.
Yeah, the next step is we issue a notice of award to the contractor, and then we send out those documents. So actually, we can correct the typo on the Iran-Contra spending, but that is a state of Michigan form that comes with the grant funding that we receive for this. We can certainly check that one. The other language, in terms of gender specific, I think that's something that is an overhaul of the specifications. So I don't know that that'll get corrected before these contracts go out, but I think for the next projects that get bid, we'll take a look at that.
And the motion should also have included attorney's approval for the contract, right?
Yes, correct.
Is that a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and support, and I'm glad there were 6 bidders. That's good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is to request to seek sealed bids for the replacement and installation of the community center HVAC units.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Rowe. This will also come back to the township for approval. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is request to accept the low bid from Decima LLC for the repairs to the community center bathrooms in the amount of $603,792, which is budgeted, and for the community center water damage in the amount of $88,703, which is budgeted, for a total amount of $692,495.
So moved.
Contingent upon attorney's review and approval of the contract.
So moved.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Eldridge. The long-awaited community center.
So Lindsay was kind enough to join me up here, but we are bringing forward the current set of bids that we received for the community center water damage and general fund funded projects for the sanitary line repair, as well as updates to the community center building. We did receive 3 bids on this project. Decima out of Detroit was the lowest bid. So currently with both bids, a total of $692,495. That is actually under what we have budgeted at this time. So it does leave room in case some things are found and more might need to be brought forward to the board. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
That also still carries like 41K allowance for miscellaneous unforeseen items within that number as well. So there's a little bit in there already to cover unforeseen conditions.
Do we have a time frame? Our seniors are dying to get it back into the building.
So
Not dying.
obviously contingent on Doug's approval of the contract when those documents are prepared, but the goal for the timeline of the project is February to May. So ideally by May, that part of the community center work will be done.
Awesome.
Wing 200, yep. And then we do have a draft ready that we'll send out tomorrow for review.
Great job. And this too was part of the ARPA funding,
Yes,
which is in the general fund now, but, so this is proceeding and will be under contract by soon, and it'll be completed by May. That's great news. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 7 is request to accept the low bid from A.R. Brower for tennis court renovations at Clubview Park in the amount of $279,000, which is budgeted. And I just need to clarify something. Yeah. Which is budgeted and for tennis court renovations at Community Center Park in the amount of $407,973.46, which is budgeted for a total amount of $687,244.71, contingent upon the attorney's review and approval of the contract. Motion, isn't it?
Sorry.
Motion.
Support.
Eldridge, support Rowe.
So this is for 2 MDNR grants that have been brought forward in the past few years. Both are land and water conservation grants. Clubview Park is from 2021. Community Center Park is from 2020. And this is also part of the earlier mentioned budget amendment. Both of these projects did come in higher than we had budgeted through the grant allocation. Jennifer did join me and the MDNR on a phone call to see if there was any kind of ways we can look at it. But after further conversation with Supervisor Stumbo, it was suggested to bring forward as the project was submitted to the MDNR and look to do the work contingent on the budget amendment. So this would be the tennis court renovations of both parks, including ADA accessibility with walking path improvements at Clubview, handicap park added to Community Center Park, and just site restoration that will go along with the repairs of the tennis courts.
Questions or comments?
So I have one comment.
Trustee Swanson?
So with the pickleball courts, which is great, it's a great improvement. My concern is that we have large community parks, and then we have neighborhood parks. And the intent of a neighborhood park is for the neighborhood to use it. Of course, you're not keeping people from going there, but they don't have the infrastructure that a larger park would, like restrooms, parking. And so I think we need to think about some signage that at least goes with the pickleball courts that says something like, I'm just concerned because pickleball is really popular. And if you get a large influx of people, it's really hard for a neighborhood park to handle that. There's no parking, and then there might be a constant all day long. I know we've had some problems or some issues with other parks. So I'm not suggesting that we keep people from parks, because the parks belong to all of us. But the ones at Ford Lake and the ones that are going to be at the community center park have space to accommodate large groups of people. And that might have to be just some of our messaging that's always been the plan, that we don't do things or put things in neighborhood parks that are going to draw large numbers of people, because we just don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have, and then you get a whole other host of problems with no bathroom and people not wanting to leave the park to go to the bathroom and those types of things. So I just think we have to think about, not in a way that makes anybody feel like we're trying to isolate or we don't want people in parks, but if they don't have the infrastructure, we can't have people parking all over streets and stuff like that. And so that's going to be important. And then the pickleball courts will also allow for, if somebody wants to play tennis, like we're not completely changing them so there wouldn't be tennis. Is that correct?
Correct. So tennis courts will still be at both. It'll be 1 tennis court and 2 pickleball courts at Clubview, and then 1 tennis and 4 pickleball at Community Center Park.
And again, I'm grateful to the township for working to take care of the tennis courts. At one point in time, we were on the Park Commission thinking of taking that infrastructure out. Strong pressure. I was one of those park commissioners that said, no, when you have something, you don't get rid of it. So this is why now it would cost a lot more to put something in than to fix something. So I'm really proud of the township for not doing that, because you wouldn't have seen at that time pickleball coming on the horizon. So this is a good thing. So signage would be helpful.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members? And this was outside the previous resolution for ARPA funding. This is
Correct. These are both MDNR state-funded
grant, and it's
grants.
50% grant, and hopefully our lobbyists will help get more dollars because of the way costs are coming in. And he thought they would, and I hope that's true. If that's the case, we may get reimbursed for some of these dollars that are over because the bids were much higher than anticipated. We have a motion support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Under other business, it was distributed at everyone's chair. It's a request to authorize a clerk and supervisor to sign professional planning and zoning service agreement with Carlisle Wortman in the amount of $8,960 per month for the remainder of 2024, contingent upon attorney approval prior to signing. And I met with Ben Carlisle, who is our professional services, Carlisle Wortman, and our planning director, resigned and went to the private sector. And with his departure, we would like to contract for services in order to have Carlisle Wortman on site for 2 days. And in the contract, it was, unlimited questions from staff and development team. They're going to have development team meetings. They meet with developers. They do our site plans currently. So this will make sure there's no, I don't know how. No break in services at all, and the developers will continue to be able to be addressed, and our residents who want to, redevelop a piece of property or current township businesses. So this is a proposal, and it should be a wash in the budget, because the expense that was budgeted for a full-time planning director with their healthcare cost and retirement, et cetera, this will cover it. So there will be no increase in the budget for this.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Eldridge, support Ryan. Is there questions and comments?
One question, ma'am.
Yes.
So this contract will extend for the duration of the year. I'm assuming, because I haven't had a chance to go through it, that should we find a planning director in the interim, that this contract can be exited at any point?
Yeah, the intent is to do it for the rest of the year, to see Pittsfield Township
Yep.
currently contracts for their planning professionals, which is Carlisle Wortman already. They don't, and they have staff like we do as well, but that's a decision the board can make on that. And I think there is a clause in the contract that can be terminated within 30 days, but I'll have to, the intent is to finish out the rest of the year, so there's no hiccups right now, and that we can always advertise and go back out again for it in the interim. Mr. Winters?
Yeah, I was just going to add, there are so many projects that are in the pipeline right now, so to speak, and you've seen some of the letters that have come over and some of the ones that are pending, that at least with Carlisle Wortman, you have kind of the continuity that you would need, at least to figure out if you're going to go forward with a RFP for that position, because right now, it's wintertime now, but spring will be here before you know it, and there's a lot of pressure already on the Building and Planning Department for these reviews to be carried forward. So I think with Carlisle Wortman, at least you will not have that lapse and hiccups along the way, because there's too many things at stake here.
I would like to point out that Sally Elmager, who is the lead principal, will be the person assigned to the township, so 25-year experienced person will be the person at the township. We also have one of the employees in the department recently received his AICP certification for planning. He graduated from his master's degree in planning, and he actually tested and received his AICP as a planner, but he needs years of experience in order to be the director, and this will provide also for an opportunity to continue to have someone to work with our employees as they continue to get experience and knowledge. So I think it's going to be it's going to work well in the interim.
So we found ourselves so frequently lately where our attorney has to be heavily involved in things. So I'm wondering, what's the feedback loop for our legal services finding out things not after the fact? So a lot of the communications that we get are communications where the legal department is trying to collect things, catch up, do stuff, and I don't think that's a great way to do business. So in order for that not to happen, you almost have to have some kind of a connection before we're cleaning up. So how does that happen? Maybe I just don't understand the way it works because we're not working the way it should work. But does legal go to development meetings? Like, what's the connection?
Yeah, so legal currently goes to development meetings right now, and Mr. Winters and Attorney McLean they know Carlisle Wortman. And currently, there's already been a change because Fletcher Ryer, who is in the department, he's already sending information as he's getting them to all of us and to legal as well. So I've seen a change in that already.
Because there's also stuff that's already in process, so that may be the case now, but that's my concern. I always prefer for things to not be at a point where there's a problem, because that's frustrating for residents, that's frustrating for everybody when you think something's going a certain way and then it's not. So it says that the consultant will be at the all Thursday development team meetings, and if that's the case, our legal is also interfacing there, so that would be what I'm concerned about.
Yep.
So that we're proactive instead of reactive, because Carlisle Wortman helped us with our master plan, right? And we're shifting to like form-based and those other things, which the community's trying to shift to a change that can be hard, because if you look around the township, it isn't all that way. And so I think sometimes those early businesses that come in, like Aldi, for example, like shifting in that way cost more money to do that. But you want to be very forward in telling people when they're trying to develop, this is where we are, so that we can make that shift. Because, you know, if there's a lot of pressure for things to happen, we definitely want development here. I'm not anti-development, but I want the development to follow our master plan. And for us not to get into situations where there's a lot of friction with, you know, somebody who wants to come here. So, and just infrastructure and, you know, if you're developing like roads and other things that have to be there, there's so much into this. So I'm grateful for the consulting, but I just want to make sure that we're going to get what we need for a time period right now that's been challenging, I'll say, with everything that's been coming our way.
Carlisle Wortman also did our E-Course Road redevelopment plans and our Michigan Avenue. So that'll be helpful with that consistency. And like I said, Mr. Winters attends our development meeting. Mr. McLean does sometimes as well. So we'll keep that line of communication open. We don't want a lawsuit by misleading someone that they could get something and in reality it didn't match up with their master plan. So that's a good point.
I wasn't saying we misled somebody. What I think is happening is that a lot was happening at the same time. And I don't know that I would say that somebody purposefully or anybody misled somebody. I just think staying on top of all the requests we have is challenging. And so when we aren't on top of it, sometimes, or as clear as we could be with somebody about something or the processes of how things happen, people may think that something can happen and then it can't happen, and then there's nothing more disappointing to be moving forward with something that you think can happen, and then it just puts everybody in a rough spot. So we need help, there's no doubt about that. I just want to make sure that the help we get helps us move us to a place where we're less reactive and more proactive. So maybe, I'm sure, that's just my feeling. We've had a lot of bumps lately, and I would rather us not be a community that is constantly hitting bumps that we don't need to.
All right, any other comments? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under public comments, if anyone would like to make a public comments, you have 3 minutes. Just give your name and if you're a township resident or not. Any public comments? Hearing none, board member updates.
Hi there.
Hi.
I was a little slow getting up there. My knees were a little chilled. First off, my name is Ken McGee. I've met several of you before. I wanted to applaud you for taking the efforts on cybersecurity. It's a proactive measure. Frequently, it seems like more focus is not placed on the victims out there, so I'm glad to see you've got the foresight and moving forward with doing something that will create solutions to crimes before they occur. Thank you very much. And the other reason I came out here is I've been following the board and your decisions here to consider doing an outside study in regards to the feasibility and the bang for your buck, for lack of a better term, in regards to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, what you're receiving in regards to what you're paying out. And it's no secret that I'm also a candidate for Washtenaw County Sheriff, but I also wanted to be here to tell you that I applaud you for that as well, and that government should be 100% accountable and 100% transparent. Doesn't matter if you're working within the water system or the Parks and Rec or whatever, law enforcement especially, 100%. And from what I've been following, it hasn't seemed to be 100% transparent, and it should be. And I'm not sure how long the process will take, but I wanted to let you know that I'm 100% behind your concept in regards to the outside agencies looking in to the 2 stages that I've heard about, number 1. Number 2 is if it takes a long time and if things go my way during the election, I will be 100% transparent with you and provide you with every scrap of paper that you need to make your decisions, because you shouldn't have to go through all of this process to get answers to what you want to have. And that's all I wanted to say. I came out here to just let you know I've been following it in the papers and online, and I commend you for following through, because at the end of the day, it's the public's money, and you're using it wisely, and you want to make sure that everyone else is using it wisely. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there board member updates? Can you talk into the microphone?
Just asking if I can. So I appreciate that we had a lot of bids that came through today, and the work is getting done. I appreciate that. I'm concerned about the carport, though, because we have bids in November, and I don't feel like I have a good grasp of that process. So when you look at the bids that we have, that we did today, I want to say bids were offered like the timeline was received on the 4th of January, and they're at our meeting for approval by 2/6. So that's about a month. So I don't know where it is or how it's going to go. We're approaching a year since the carport was damaged. If we have bids, and we had bids at the end of November, I'm not understanding why they're not coming to us. So I know it's been said that the insurance agency is waiting for something. I don't know what the process is going to be. I personally think the carport is needed, but that's a decision that the board would have to make if those bids come in. But, I mean, bid after bid, that was the same process. They were received, and about a month, they're handled by us, even if we're not approving them, a decision. So we've got people who bidded that haven't heard from us in months, and I just don't think that's a good way for the township to do business, and it's not a strong way for us to get a carport if that's what we need. So at some point, like I requested that they be brought forth at this meeting. If that wasn't enough time, I'm requesting that we bring the bids forward at the next meeting that we have. And then I'm concerned about what communication the people who bid are getting from us, because if they took the time to fill out everything that needed to be filled out for a bid, that's a lot of work. And I think we owe it to anybody that put the work into doing a bid. We owe them a yes or no, especially because spring is coming. So when they bid on that in November, they're planning out, like, these are people's livelihoods. And so if we're not interested, or if we're not interested in doing it, then we need to let people know that. We need to take a vote on it. If we are interested in doing it, then we owe it to those people who bid to let them know who's going to get the bid, so that they can then make plans for their business.
All right. Did you want to?
Madam Chair, I'll just say, Debbie, I read your email and I hear your concern. I provided the board with the bids in November. Our office's piece of that is we open the bids. And, of course, if people have questions about it, like if one of the companies that bid on it asked us for the bid tab, we would provide that to them. But as far as moving forward with that, at the time, I think the clerk's office doesn't bring forward the recommendation for the bid. And then, we've had those since November. We still don't have an answer from insurance on how much we're going to get paid. But it is we could vote on that at any point. It just needs to be brought forward by the correct department, and we could proceed from there.
So how will we know what the insurance company is going to give us? Because the last time I asked this question, I think at our last meeting or the meeting before that, I expressed the same concern, but I was told the insurance company was waiting for something from us. They were waiting for bills or invoice. We're not going to be able to give them bills if we don't have a contractor who's going to do the work.
So if I could just clarify, the bills that we have sent are for engineering. Those have all been sent to date. And the last email that I sent this week, I forwarded to everyone. And it was, again, we sent it out to review by our attorney, or not our attorney, our engineer. Like, they hired their own engineer to make sure the specs were right. And the last time frame they gave us was maybe in 2 to 4 weeks, we would know. So we don't know how much money they're giving us. We're still waiting. I've been persistent on asking, like, when are we going to get that update? I've shared that with the board members here. So that's an independent factor. We can move forward with the carport if we choose to. We're just not sure how much we'll be reimbursed for.
Know that, like, there was an email that said that all the board members received it. I went back in my emails. I don't see, so if you could forward to at least me, I'm not seeing where I got the bids in November.
Sure.
So if you could do that, that'd be great. And then when you say you forwarded them to us, did we get the bids just like all the other bids that were in, like, our packet for the projects that are here? Like, all those documents and everything that was put in with the bids? Is that how we received them?
I would have to look back. It was either sent as an attachment or it could have been sent as a file drop-off. I don't recall from my memory if the file's too large. Like today, I sent one over for the pond to everyone, and that came through as a drop-off because of how big they are. So you have to actually go into your email and download the file. So, but I'm happy to send you all of that again. Yeah, usually get, Okay.
Other board member update? The only thing I have is to thank McLean and Winters, specifically Doug, for all the negotiations on the selling of Township property. It's been over 20 years, and it finally happened with Aldi, but it would not have happened had it not been for your persistency and knowledge on closings of property. So we also have another second potential purchaser for the Township property on Huron Street. And the dollars are going to go to E-Course and Michigan Avenue improvements. So it's a great way to play it forward. But without you, it really would not have happened. And I just want to publicly thank you and acknowledge that. Secondly, we met with the EMU row team, and they want to do a submergible, I don't know if I said that properly or not, but an actual rowing course. And they've probably been talking about this for 9 years. It takes a while for things to move. But it will mean there will be a lot of competition available for regattas, even national tournaments, by having this course. Right, they currently row there now, and residents love to watch them. We get a lot of comments about it. But this is something that will allow us to be host competitions. They will pay to get into the park. It will. It's just win, win, win. And EMU is very excited about it. Destination in Ann Arbor is very excited, and actually so are we. So as we move forward with that, we will bring that to the board to let the board and the Park Commission know, of course. But they wanted to have a meeting because they have the funding to do it. It's about $500,000, and it's through EMU, Destination Ann Arbor, and the Marriott Hotel. So it's really exciting. Rowing helps with Title IX as well. There's men as well as women who can get scholarships to EMU for rowing. It's exposing high schoolers to it, and they're looking at programming in the parks too. So it's just really a potential great opportunity that's finally coming to fruition. So I wanted to share that with the board. That's all I have. So a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion Eldridge.
Support.
Support Rowe at 7:31. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yeah.
story about how it's doing. But I'm not technically seeing it's going to be external, like we talked about this. An overdose of sword. How old's your daughter now? Mine's 26. She graduated from college.